In this video, we are going to be discussing the monk. Now, as a reminder, right, the clergy was very corrupt during Chaucer's time, and so he is especially hard on members of the clergy who are supposed to be held to a higher esteem, to a higher standard, and when they deviate from that, right, he is more harsh on them than he might be towards other pilgrims. So we are going to read the part of a monk now. Now, when we think about a monk, okay, we think about the monastery in which they live, right? Them being cloistered away, set apart from society, maybe through meditation, especially nowadays. I think we think of a lot of monks that way. Back in Chaucer's time, right, the printing press had not been invented yet, and so you would have had monks separated away from society in the monasteries, copying down various religious texts. So let's see what Chaucer has to say about this monk. A monk there was, one of the finest sort, who rode the country, hunting was his sport. A manly man, to be an abbot able, many a dainty horse he had in stable. His bridle when he rode a man might hear, jingling in a whistling wind as clear, aye, and as loud as does the chapel bell, where my lord monk was prior of the cell. We have several features that are pointed out to us regarding this monk in these lines. First, he is the prior of his cell. So just like the prioress was kind of like a head nun, right? A nun above other nuns. So is this monk, okay? He is a prior, so he's kind of in charge of a group of monks. The next thing that we find out about him, actually the very first thing we find out about him, is the fact that Chaucer tells us hunting was his sport. So Chaucer lets us know right away that this monk is not spending all of his time indoors, copying down text and so forth, but rather he is out and about. He is hunting. Okay, yet he's not out there hunting on foot. Chaucer tells us that this monk has horses. Okay, many a dainty horse. Where's Monk getting the money to have all these horses? And from all appearances, what Chaucer's telling us is very, very nice horses. Okay. Not only very nice horses, but on top of that, their bridles are very nice as well. It tells us that he has these little jingling kind of bells on his bridle. So kind of like a fancier bridle. Again, as a member of the church, as a monk, he really shouldn't have this money. And so we're having these hints here of perhaps some corruption. Where is he getting this money? And the fact that he's not using his time as he should. He's out and about hunting instead of being cloistered away in the monastery. The rule of good St. Bennet or Maur, as old and strict, he tended to ignore. Now, this version has footnotes regarding this. And if we look at the footnote, it says that those two saints established a strict set of rules for monks' behavior. Okay, great. Let's go back to the text though. What does Chaucer tell us about that? The monk tended to ignore those rules. Okay. So he's not following the lifestyle that a monk should. He let go by the things of yesterday and took the modern world's more spacious way. He did not rate that a text as a plucked hen, which says that hunters are not holy men, and that a monk uncloistered is a mere fish out of water, flapping on the pier, that is to say, a monk out of his cloister. That was a text he held not worth an oyster. And I agreed and said his views were sound. Was he to study till his head went round, poring over books and cloisters? Must he toil, as Austin bade, and till the very soil? Was he to leave the world upon the shelf? Let Austin have his labor to himself. Several more things are happening in these lines. The first is that these lines are hinting to us that the monk is not following the Bible as he should. He is one of those Christians, okay, one of those people that likes to pick and choose which parts of the Bible he wants to follow. Okay, so he'll find a verse, several verses he likes. Okay, yes, I can follow that. That's great. But then a verse might pop up that doesn't align to the life that he wants to live. And so he just pretends like it doesn't exist. It's not how the Bible works. Okay, you can't pick and choose which verses you want to follow and which verses or books that you just want to ignore. Okay, that's not how Christianity works. Okay, so this monk, again, is just picking and choosing verses to align with the lifestyle that he wants to lead. And it also lets us know that, monks were supposed to be working in their gardens, right? That self-sustaining gardens and so forth. And he's not doing that. Okay, he doesn't want to be doing that hard work, that manual labor out in the fields. Okay, he wants to be off hunting. This monk was therefore a good man to horse. Greyhounds he had, as swift as birds to course. Hunting a hare or riding at a fence was all his fun. He spared for no expense. I saw his sleeves were garnished at the hand with fine gray fur, the finest in the land. Okay, so we think about monks, right? They just have those basic robes on, nothing fancy about them at all, just very simple. But this monk, he has very nice robes, and the adornments on them are very nice. It tells us that his sleeves were garnished at the hand with fine gray fur, the finest in the land, right? So at the end of his robe sleeve, he had this fur, and not just any fur, the finest in the land. How is a monk affording the finest fur in the land? Okay. Again, we have that corruption going on. And on his hood, to fasten at his chin, he had a wrought gold cunningly fashioned pin. Into a lover's knot it seemed to pass. Okay, so he's like this fancy gold kind of like pin brooch here. Okay, again, why do you have that when you're supposed to just be wearing these very simple robes? His head was bald and shone like looking glass. So did his face, as if it had been greased. Ugh. Okay, so I'm picturing here one of those classic monk kind of haircuts, right, with the hair kind of going all the way around. Maybe not, though. Maybe he's just completely bald. Either way, he's bald up top, very shiny, and his face is very shiny, just like real greasy looking, not attractive. He was a fat and personable priest. His prominent eyeballs never seemed to settle. They glittered like flames beneath a kettle. Supple his boots, his horse in fine condition. He was prelate fit for exhibition. He was not pale like a tormented soul. He liked a fat swan best and roasted whole. His palfrey was as brown as is a berry. Okay, so we have this rebellious monk here, right? He's ignoring the rules. He's doing whatever he wants in life. He's dressing nicely. He's spending money on food and horses and accessories like that. So is he out there hurting people? No, but he is hurting the image of the church in the way that he is acting, right? He is not as a monk should be. And so he is one of those characters that Chaucer's not going to like. Again, he's very hard on the clergy. And since this monk is doing pretty much nothing like a monk should, maybe he's wearing the robes, but he's accessorizing them, Chaucer does not like this guy.